We're at Flex Gym. This is the first time I've trained here in like months, I swear, but they have a lot of cool back equipment and stuff and some different pieces that we're gonna use. We're gonna show 5 of our favorite back exercises for building back mass. I think we're gonna start with pull downs, right? And then do a few variations of that, and then we'll go from there. I'm not necessarily claiming for this to be the best back exercise for mass, but this is what I found has helped me build some back mass and Tyler as well. So
okay, so what you want to do, he wants to keep his chest up, keep your chin up a bit. Don't put your chin down when you're doing it. Keep your core tight though, hold it tight, and pull down from your elbows. When you're pulling down, pull it down and back. Try not to hit top of your chest here. As he's coming up, he's gonna breathe in and then all the way out, and then that way you can get the full contraction of the lat. And then when he blows all the way out, feel it even into your like erector area and everything.
Back. There you go. Chest up. There you go. Nice. Chest up.
What I'm gonna get him to try to do is, instead of keeping it too wide or too narrow, keep it more of a neutral grip so that you can pull from your elbows inwards into your lat. So what happens is if you go too close, you're gonna start feeling it like on the inner here, right?
it shoots kind of outwards.
Yeah. So it
And
becomes,
you start shrugging.
right. So it becomes more of like a mid-back movement. The wider you go, the more it's hitting your mid-back. The closer you go, the more you're hitting lat. So most people have the misconception that if you go wider, it's gonna give you a wider back, which is not true at all. In fact, you wanna just have it more neutral and then just driving it down right in there really hard. So remember, keep your chin up.
Down and back. There you go. Mid back arch, remember. There you go. Down and back. Down and back. There you go.
One of the main differences between just doing a normal powerlifting deadlift and what I'm doing here is I'm not coming all the way through like you noticed in the big boy video where I learned to deadlift for the first time, like powerlifter form. He said come all the way through and almost lock out to the point where your body's in the straight line like a pencil. Instead, I'm going 3/4 the way down, so it should be like just below my knee. And as I come up, my focus isn't immediately just drive straight up like that. Come to like just before parallel and drive my elbow, my hands and my palm backwards so that I'm forcing my lats to contract the whole time. So it's actually a good movement for bodybuilding because one of the main functions of your lat is to pull downwards like this. So that's what you should be focusing on. As you come up, you're pulling your lats downwards. And when you pull, think about driving your hands behind your back. Normally, I just use no shoes and just go full flat foot tripod stance. Since the floor is a bit slippery, it's just a wood plank. I'm just gonna put on the shoes. These are relatively flat. They're not super elevated or anything like that, so it's not too bad, but I don't recommend using like running shoes for deadlifting or rack pulling or 3/4 deadlifts. This is one of the exercises I like doing at the beginning of my workout than the first 2 to 3 exercises because it's so taxing, all the bracing you have to do. Even though you're not going all the way down, you don't get that second of relief at the bottom of the motion, and since you're not going to a straight line all the way up like a pencil, the tension's just on your lats the whole time. You have to keep your core braced, so. Usually I'd start with this rather than the pull downs, but since I wanted to go straight to the heavier movement, the 3/4 deadlift, I figured I'd push this to a little bit later on in my workout since it's not quite as compromising. We're gonna do a dumbbell pullover. Now one thing that's a little bit different between the way that I do it or Tyler, Brayden, and Chris has taught us to do it, that I'm actually gonna keep my hip relatively low so that my upper back can arch and I can really drive through, keep my diaphragm open as I'm doing the movement rather than scrunching up into almost like a shrugging movement or where you're forced to more so internally rotate and protract, and then you're gonna get more chest activation and just activation of other muscle groups rather than really just driving through your lats. So this is the last lat movement that we're gonna do, and then afterwards we're gonna go to a mid-back movement, right? We're gonna do a T-bar row. The whole focus the whole time should be driving from my elbow and almost thinking about pulling my elbow down to my hip and squeezing that as hard as I can. Now with the pullover movement, since I'm using the dumbbell, if I come all the way through straight above my body with a straight arm, I'm gonna be taking all of the tension off, and I don't wanna do that obviously when I'm doing any sort of movement, just because I'm trying to keep as much tension on my lats as possible. So just like the 3/4 deadlift, I'll stop just before perpendicular with the ground. When we did the pull downs, we talked about breathing all your air out at the bottom of the motion, get that nice squeeze in your lower lats as well as your erectors, and it's gonna be the same thing with this. It's an explosive movement, so at the bottom I'm here, big deep breath, letting my hips drop to expand my diaphragm, and then breathing all of my air out and even a little bit of an extra contraction, just so I really get that extra thickness in my lower lat and then all the way into my erectors. So I'm probably gonna do like 3, maybe 4 sets here, but we're already getting closer to the end of the workout, so my body's pretty shot after doing the 3/4 deadlift. With this movement in particular, I like keeping a lot of the focus on the stretch, since a lot of the tension does come off as you get closer to perpendicular. But if I get that nice stretch, that's gonna be the main goal. So we're gonna do this for mid and upper back. One technique that Chris taught us that's definitely really good is your chin and your head positioning as you're going through the motion, so that you get a full stretch and full contraction. Since we're trying to target upper back, we're gonna tuck our chin during the concentric and really drive and squeeze, almost as if our elbows are wrapping around our body so that we're squeezing our mid back. So when I'm pulling, I'm gonna try to keep my elbows relatively high, because as soon as I start tucking in like this, it's gonna go on my lats. Ended up doing 4 exercises just because it was so taxing, a lot of the exercises that we were doing. Hopefully you guys were able to learn some of the techniques. I know it's a little bit different with Braden behind the camera, kind of coaching me as he shoots, as well as Tyler being there. So hopefully you guys were able to learn a few different exercises, techniques, and things like that, just to help you build some back bigness. So like on the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, post notifications on, gotta remember all this stuff, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.